Hi, my name is Boz. You have all heard of the boxing terminology such as good chin, bad chin, or iron jaw, glass jaw. But what makes a fighter have an iron jaw or a glass jaw? Let's find out. Um, yeah, I think some people think that it's just about something that you are born with, and they are right, but not perhaps not in the same way that they think. Actually, I think some people think that it's something about having a strong chin, the very chin and jaw, you know. And while that is true to some extent, perhaps I think there's another factor that plays a more important role here, and that is the skull. The shape of one's skull actually determines a lot if you are able to take punishment and how much punishment you are able to take. And also the neck plays a really vital part as well, because I've seen the legendary George Chu. I'll talk about this. He's known as having one of the best chins in the boxing ever and being one of the toughest, most durable boxers. And why? He said a lot of it had to do with him having a short neck. Because when your neck is short, then the effect of the punches is not as hard, as strong, on your head, on your skull. And yeah, so I guess I do pretty well. And but perhaps even more important, if you look at, let's take two examples, Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns. Hagler was known for having one of the best chins ever, and of course, he was never close to being stopped, or he was only knocked down once, and he's had 65 professional fights. While Tommy Hearns, despite being just as great as a fighter as Hagler, he was infamous for having a really vulnerable chin. And why is that? If you look at the pictures of these two, you will notice that they have very, very different facial and cranial structure. They are very different physically altogether. Hagler is the shorter, stockier type, with also a more massive head, if you will, or not as long, but kind of well, more round and kind of like I have. And while his head or skull was much more narrow, but also longer or more elongated, to use the academical word. And that, I believe, was a really decisive factor in the fact that Hearns wasn't really able to take punches so well. I wouldn't say he had a he didn't have a terrible chin, but he just couldn't, take the hardest punches, and you know, yeah, he was knocked out by Iran Barkley, of course. He was ahead in that fight, as you may have seen. He was really punishing Barkley, but then all of a sudden he was hit by this big, I think it was an uppercut. Poof, and he was gone. It was over right there and then. And well, the same thing can perhaps be said about Terry Norris. He was also known for not having one of the best chins in the sport, despite being one of the best fighters of his time. And yeah, if you look at Terry Norris as well, you will notice that his skull is rather long and narrow for his size, especially. He's only 5'9". And the same can be said about Roy Jones Jr. He doesn't really have a big head, but his head is also quite narrow. His skull is his head is quite small, but it's not very wide, so this may sound a little bit, blunt, but that's the way it is, Yeah, if you look at Roy Jones Jr., yeah, he really has a quite narrow face and skull. Yeah, I'm looking at his picture right now. And same did Terry Norris. Of course, it took many years until we found out that Roy Jones had a bad chin because he never really got hit properly before, or he was never in the situation to get exposed for his bad chin until he fought Tommy Hearn. Sorry, Antonio Tarver. Yeah, and Tarver, he's perhaps somewhat of an yeah, exception to the rule. He's not, but I'm looking at his picture right now. He doesn't have a very wide head, but he doesn't have a really narrow head either. So he has quite, average type skull size, and but his head actually looks pretty strong. Perhaps because he is bald, but anyway, no, he doesn't. He never had a really thin, narrow head or face, because he may have looked so because he was a little skinny for his size, for a man so tall, but still, yeah, he had a really good chin, still does, exceptional. And then here's Marvin Hagler, yeah, Marvin Hagler was, and one more example, quite tragic example was that of Gerald McClellan. He actually had one of the the thinnest, and still has actually one of the thinnest and longest skulls I have ever seen. That's true, and that was really unfortunate for him. Yeah, he has a really long, not very thin, but still thin and narrow, because it is so long, it's not very wide. So yeah, and you know what happened to him, of course, against Nigel Benn. Nigel Benn, he doesn't, well, he never had a really good chin, but not too bad, I think I'd say either, because he was only stopped or knocked out once for real. He was stopped because of on accumulation against Eubank in the first fight, and but he was never really knocked out. He against Michael Watson he punched himself out and then was dropped. But he got up, but he couldn't fight anymore. So yeah, I'd say he had a pretty good chin. But Chris Eubank Senior, that's the guy who really had a really outstanding chin. And if you look at his head shape, you'll notice that he has very strong, skull structure, very strong, and very strong cheekbones as well. And that's something that's also, I'd say, quite important, as well as having well-developed uh, chewing muscles, because that's another thing that George Wallace said, that he used to chew a lot of gum to develop his muscles here, cheek muscles, and so he got even more. Yeah, uh, his chin grew even better. More, yeah, his punch resistance got better. Let's say, put it that way. So there you go. That's the secret really behind what makes a fighter weak-chinned and strong-chinned, or strong-jawed and weak-jawed. It's not like, some people think, yeah, he was just born, like that. For some reason, he can take all of punches, but no, it's all physical, it's all due to the anatomy, the uppermost body anatomy, the neck, the jaw, and skull. So there you have it. Thank you. That's all for from me now. See you.